Casey Marie Anthony walked out of the Orange County Sheriff's Office with her head held high. Detectives say she has showed little emotion for her 2-year-old daughter, Kaylee.
I saw Casey break down. I saw Casey cry. Every day I've been being miserable about this. Every single day.
Right.
Not knowing where to go, what to do, running in circles, literally. This is all I can do at this point.
You causing injury to your child, Kaylee?
No, sir.
No more lies. No more bull coming out of your mouth. No more lies. What happened to Kaylee?
I don't know.
She admitted to lying throughout her interrogation, and the whole time detectives writing their report, Casey didn't show any obvious emotion as to the loss of a child. She did not cry or give any indication she was legitimately worried.
My daughter may have some mistruths out there or half-truths, but she is not a murderer. There's no evidence that Casey has ever done anything to her child.
Thank you. Tell me your name, please. Right, Ms. Anthony, I have a sworn affidavit filed by you apparently on or about March 10th of 09. You recall the affidavit that you filed? Okay, you can remain seated. In this affidavit, paragraph 3, you indicate you signed and executed a retainer agreement for my attorney's services, correct? All right, and again, that's true, right? And in paragraph, oh, by the way, there was only one retainer agreement that you signed with Mr. Baez? All right, and then in paragraph number 4, you say the retainer agreement does not contain any clauses or parts that allow or entitle him to any rights that would allow him to sell my story or that of my daughter, Kaylee Marie Anthony. Is that true? Okay, also in paragraph number 4, the him that you refer to, is that Mr. Baez? Okay. And finally, in paragraph number 5, you say there are no other agreements selling my story, and that's true? Does any literary rights fee agreement exist between you and Mr. Baez? All right, and the other items in your sworn affidavit are true? All right, thank you.
Tom Mom out of the jailhouse into the courthouse today. There you see her in full ankle shackle under oath, answering questions fired at her by the judge. It's all about questions arising whether Top Mom and her lawyer are raking in money off Kaylee's murder. We know of an alleged $250,000 plus already paid over during this case, and the trial hasn't even started. We haven't even struck a jury. A blow-up there at the end of the day in the courtroom. Drew Petrimo, WDBO. Apparently, the defense attorney, Jose Baez, makes some comment suggesting that the state is leaking private information. And the state got mad and fired back. I don't blame them, Petrimo. What exactly happened? In a nutshell.
Jose Baez said that he didn't want any information that they talked about in that 7-minute session that they had, that private session about who's paying for Casey's defense. He made a comment. He said, Judge, I just want you to make sure that none of that information gets out to the public. The judge says, you know, that shouldn't be something that I have to say, but the prosecution took offense to him saying that. He says, we know our ethical responsibilities. There's no reason that we should need to be reminded of that. One thing I will add, though, I will say that there have been leaks in this case. Whether they have came from the state attorney's office or not, we don't know that, but there have been a good amount of leaks before information comes out in discovery.
To Mike Brooks, former Fed with the FBI. Mike, you've been on the case from the beginning. Let me ask you a few quick questions. Number one, who's been appearing on the Today Show and other morning network show? The defense or the prosecution? Who?
Defense.
All right. Who has gotten $250,000 that we know of so far for interviews and licensing fees for family photos? The state or the defense?
Defense.
Okay. And last but not least, who, state or defense, has already had bar complaints surrounding this case?
A number of members of the defense.
Okay, you know, they got a nerve, but all of that is a sideshow. It's a sideshow to what's really going on in court. Back to Kathy Belch, WFTV. So when it got down to the nitty-gritty about who's already raked in a $250,000, they all trotted back to the judge's chamber, so we don't have the answer, right?
That's right, and we might never get the answer, but the judge came out satisfied at the very least that Casey Anthony knows where the money is coming from. The prosecutors made the statement that she can't be negotiating. She's in jail. It's got to be the defense.
Okay.
So they wanted to make sure that she knew where the money was coming from and that she was okay with that.
To Kirby Clements, can't this whole scenario be rerouted by payments going to the grandparents and not to Tot Mom?
Well, I would imagine that it could, but you know, let's go back to something. Why is everybody jumping on the defense for doing their job?
It's not their job.
They're doing their job, and
Their
everyone,
job
and
to
they're
be a
accusing them
smart
of
aleck
improper
in
conduct.
court is
But
not a job. Is
But
not their job.
you're accusing them of improper conduct, of having a conflict of interest, and the prosecutor.
I didn't accuse them.
The prosecutor did, and then he gets mad when the defense says, "Stop doing leaks." All I'm saying is the money can come in. That's perfectly fine. There's no
Mr.
crime
Clements,
being committed at all.
Mr.
Point to me the
Clements,
law, Nancy.
I know that you have tried a lot of cases on both sides of the fence, but when formal complaints are made to the Bar Association of Florida that this guy is getting money off the selling of her story and her rights, that could affect trial strategy. When the prosecution finds out about it, it is their ethical duty to bring it up to the judge. Now, can I see Kirby Clements' face? Do you disagree with that scenario?
I agree to some degree, but I have to tell you, these bar complaints are made by people who are unhappy with the defense.
You don't know who made it. You don't know who made it.
Do you know who made it?
No, I don't.
That's my point. It's people
So
who
it
are
has
out
to
there
be
trying to tamper with the
investigated
defense.
by the judge.
No, this is about the prosecution trying to come between the defendant and her lawyer.
You
That's what it's all
said you
about.
agreed with the scenario, but yet you're still whining. You're whining because you don't like the truth. You don't like the fact that the state had to do this. On the other end of the story today, I'm going to come back to you, Kirby. We're not done yet. On the other end of the spectrum today, the Anthony's private eye under oath to John Morgan, attorney for Zenaida Gonzalez. He deposed the private eye today. What did you learn?
I think the main thing that we learned today, there was a lot of ancillary things that we learned, but I think the main thing we learned today was that the whole time that this guy was out there at the house with their private eye, that nobody from Anthony's family, not George, not Cindy, not Lee, ever spoke or mentioned Zenaida Gonzalez. No one was looking for Zenaida Gonzalez. They spent all this money.